Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the ESL 1 offline qualifier for the Cologne Major. We are now onto our second game of the day, still traversing through our losers half of the bracket. And both of our next two teams have walked similar paths yesterday, both going up against strong teams from the CIS region and both falling short of their own expectations. But here is where the fork is in the road. The Renegades struggled in one of the earlier matches yesterday up against Flipside Tactics. And now, since then, they've made a bit of a change as well. We'll see their coach PK have a stronger role in their calling instead of Sponge, who will now take a bit more of a back seat. And of course, the side of Splyce and even Arya's cheeky little ninja defuse on that A side on Cobblestone was not enough to get them through that game. They're back to the drawing board now as well. One of these teams goes 1-1. They're going to tread water and keep themselves afloat. One of these teams is going to go 0-2 and be standing on the edge of elimination. Alex, we've got a pretty solid one here as well. These two teams have dealt with each other before, of course, over in the NA region, so this one should be a cracker.
It really should, Mitch. So where is this inside Aussie scoop coming from? Because that's news to me. I'm looking forward to talking about that one. But yeah, Sponge has stepped down from the leadership role. He's going to be giving PK all the full reign of Renegades, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if that does make a change in their play. I don't know about you guys, and I'll of course introduce them. We have ourselves Vendetta and Pansy now. But I don't know about you. To me, that just sounds like Renegades just want something to work. They are just desperate at this point in time.
But was it Renegades' choice for that, or did Sponge just go, no?
Right.
Like, 'cause
I'm not doing it anymore.
does that sound like a choice a team would make one day into a 4-day event? I don't know. This is something we can, I assume, find out afterwards, but that sounds like a frustration thing. Like we even said yesterday when we were watching the game, you know, when Sponge is top fragging, something's probably going wrong. He's not built for that. In that Mirage game, that shouldn't have happened. So maybe he's got frustrated. Maybe it's the end of his tether and he's gone, I'm not doing the best I can for this team. Someone else pick it up.
Someone else try. And of course, you know, we have to address PK is that new coach presence within Renegades. It's already evident that they are looking for new ways to kind of invigorate their game with some life.
Yeah, and, but the scary thing for me is obviously one of the parts of where you see where coaches taking over the in-game leading role is coaches who actually have experience from being in-game leaders in illustrious teams. And obviously, you have some sort of a background where you actually know what that entails. Obviously, PK can't have that kind of experience being thrown into this today.
Yeah.
And I can't see this leading to anything good for Renegades, and that's pretty scary. And it seems like a very volatile change to make.
Yeah, exactly.
And with all of that said, we then proceed to say they should be favorites in this game.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a statement about Splyce, absolutely. And I'll let you kind of outline Splyce and just a little bit about why they have, there's so much doubt surrounding this squadron.
Well,
Squadron.
Squadron. That's a word. That's a word.
There you go.
But no, like for me, I'm going to be very practical about it from what I saw at least, because I think that there's been a lot of history with them we haven't really seen too much of. But the Cobble game specifically, we became very frustrated with them because they had either great intention, then lacking execution, or then just taking needless fights. You know, there's some really strange fundamental flaws that just kind of riled up. I think it was Natu at the time going, I don't understand what I'm watching. But it's these sort of games that you kind of sit there going, okay, this is weird, because it actually works out quite interestingly, because if Splyce think they did well, they might be confident in Cobble again. And Renegades also, so far, have been looking at Cobble. You know, that game against Luminosity in E-League, overtime, that was sick. So I wouldn't be surprised if that comes around.
You might be on it, actually.
And it doesn't look too far from it so far.
Yeah, no, I would actually expect Cobblestone, especially, well, I think Train is a pretty, like, for me, Train is a pretty weird veto from Renegade side, especially because they have played Splyce on Train previously back in NA, and that's gone pretty well for them. Splyce, they've just kind of set into their own zone as to what they want to veto. Same vetoes as yesterday in Dust2 and Cash. And none of the teams play Nuke. So that's pretty much Renegades, but biting the bullet.
Having to be that guy.
Yeah, they have to be that guy who removes Nuke. So with Mirage gone now from Splyce, it's going to be Cobblestone, and well, I think this is, you know, Splyce being a tad bit overconfident in their own ability after that game versus Hellraisers, like you said.
I completely agree, and the one thing I would say is, though, it came down to Azza and JKS in the E-League game to be the ones to shine in that. It was their B-hold against Luminosity was extremely good. I think it's Azza who plays by the rock, and then JKS kind of like just bounces off him by drop. So if those two actually have a good game, that's exactly where Splyce played towards in their game previously. So this, if you see Renegades in a good position, mentally in form, they should be able to handle this well. Even in, I guess, theory crafting, you'd assume that they should be able to handle it. But
Yeah, and I do want to quickly touch on JKS as an individual as well. Often seen as the, you know, the best player within Renegades at a mechanical level. However, you know, I'm someone who can, you know, I'm not completely stupid, and when I see someone sitting there with a mouse and keyboard looking like he doesn't want to be there, it raises a couple of questions for myself and his mindset coming into these games. I have not seen JKS that kind of, the one I saw over in Cologne, you know, not so long ago, where he had a big smile on his face, he was just happy to be traveling the world and playing games. It seems like he's lost that sparkle in his eyes at the moment.
That inner child has died.
Perhaps.
That's what it is.
That's what NACS
or
does.
he's just tired of the
breaks
same
you down.
results. The same results day in, day out.
Obviously, it's not fun to lose, and obviously, if they make a change like they did yesterday, things aren't, you know, it's not rosy.
It's not working.
In the Renegades camp. So I don't know really if you can expect to see any happy faces. At this point, they probably feel so much pressure on themselves that they have to qualify. Anything else would be a massive failure for them, even with, you know, wobbly results leading up to this event. So, yeah, I don't see any reasons to smile just yet, but maybe we can see something coming out of them, something positive being taken out from this couple.
Well, I mean, I don't need to tell you just how important a good mindset is in terms of finding success in CS, and we are going to be seeing Renegades get the choice of the knife round, so Alex's perfect call means Renegades are going to win this. There you go. Welcome to my analysis.
To be fair, for me, their T side was actually pretty lackluster when I watched them against Luminosity. It was their CT side, which was the stranger part, that I thought was better for them, so I'm curious how they're going to start into this. Again, whether or not they felt that way is very different, but for me, it was their CT side that defined them in that Luminosity game.
Renegades won the knife and chose to go T side, so I'm going to need your predictions now with knowing that. Lauren, first of all, just following on.
Don't make me do this. No. Okay, if Renegades don't tilt off the face of the earth, it will be them winning it. If everything is imploded, it's going to be Splyce.
No, I'm still going to fully support Renegades in this. Splyce just hasn't shown anything really to counter that.
Nothing really to lose then. Nothing really to lose for Splyce. This is a kind of you either win or no one really batters an eye at this point in time.
You either win or you don't, you know, preferably don't get crushed enough to be a laughing stock.
Leave them alone, Halvor. Right, we're going to go ahead and jump into this game. Splyce versus Renegades, and truly, this is a trying time for the Australians. One map, and should they concede this, there's no knowing what will happen to the Australian side. Let's jump into it though. It's Cobblestone, and they start on the T side.
Thank you very much, Machine. And indeed, we're going to be jumping into this second match of the day now. Splyce versus the Renegades. Truly a somewhat North American matchup, but of course the team hails from Australia, but they've been hailing from North America for the past few months now, so they're definitely no strangers to each other. Metas, what are your thoughts heading into this second match?
I think I'm going to go side with the desk. I agree. I think Renegades will be favourites to come into this game and take it. Splyce, alongside Fluffy Gangsters, one of the teams that I think most people thought wouldn't really have much of a chance or a glimmer of hope of getting anywhere. That's not to discredit them, they have the opportunity. Renegades themselves aren't the greatest of teams, are not in the greatest of form recently either, so I feel like they are ripe for the taking, but Cobblestone, certainly a map that Renegades will be happy. Recently some very good performances against Cloud9 and Luminosity at E-League and Cobblestone, so they're clearly looking pretty good coming into this game.
And Splyce, we've seen their play plenty of times here. The biggest issue with them, at least for me, is just how one-dimensional, I mean, even less than that. It could be on the T side. It's extremely straightforward, very easy to get a read on, even for a team that may not have very good leadership on the CT side. It's very easy to get a lock on as to what exactly Splyce are going to be doing there and then try to shut it down from that point forward.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's going to take some big performances from Splyce for sure. Renegades to drop the ball pretty hard. We are in that stage as well of the tournament where relegation or elimination, whatever you want to call it, is looming on the horizon. You know, you'll lose this game, you're 0-2, you've only got one more strike, then you're out. So there's a lot of pressure. Both teams coming into this will be feeling this is a must-win game. We're not going to get better opportunities to beat other teams at this event than right here, right now. Here we go. We're going to be jumping into this game. Splyce starting on the CT side, and the CT curse on Cobblestone can be real. We saw this yesterday. You break the economy, it's very difficult to claw your way back in.
So getting into things now, and for the Renegades, up on that T side, going to be moving a lot of their players to the back B halls, but it is the normal split beyond that. Both JKS and Yam still hiding out in the mid area, waiting to see if they can catch anybody from Splyce, pushing aggressively out towards long A, but beyond that, it's the waiting game to see what else will be thrown in their direction. And for Splyce, pretty default split on their regard too. 3 on the B site, 2 on the A site, with Abe holding close in the main doorway to transition to B in the event of a hit in that direction.
Both teams just pretty much playing it, biding their time, waiting to strike. Of course, the emphasis needs to be on the T's to aggressive. They've got 1 minute and 10 to play with, so plenty of time in their back pocket. And it looks like we are going to see the stack coming through drop zone. It is an area I expect to see a lot more action as this game progresses through. Renegades like to try and force their way up. And we'll be coming in with one player moving on the B plat. It's going to be Sponge.
Professor Chaos, by the way, does have the silencer off of his USB currently, so See him just firing off some shots there initially, but now they're going to start shuffling into the bombs. And Professor Chaos looking for them initially. Arya finds the first strike there. Professor Chaos looking for some more. It's actually Davey that chimes back in there in order to take down JKS. Finally, Sponge striking something in for the Renegades, as does Ustilo, and he's actually going to pick up 2, taking down Professor Chaos and Davey. So with that, they're back in the game, but Jason R striking back brings this down to a 2-on-2 even situation. He's trying to get himself back into this site very quickly, and Jason R, with him taking down Sponge up on the platform, he's also going to eliminate Yam. And with that, Splyce will have the pistol round under their control.
Yeah, huge round from Splyce. 3 kills for JR. Very nicely done. Bomb was planted for Renegades. They have some decisions to make. It's not unheard of to go for Tech 9s and charge down drop zone again. And that seems to be the order of the play. But, of course, they got the Tech 9s. Doesn't necessarily mean that we will get the drop push. Just have to wait and see. Plenty of grenades, though, as well, to back up those pistols. So, Renegades, what do you have in store for Splyce? XM as well in the hands of Davey. Very strong weapon on this map, of course.
Just to clarify once again, guys, I know it's been said before, but since we have viewers probably coming in and out, this is going to be on the older version of Cobblestone, not the new one that was put into placement last night. As you can see now, there's no staircase there as of yet, and already the guys from the Renegades try to go very quickly out onto the B bomb site. Davey shutting down, you steal a little closer towards drop. JKS does find one mark, and Yam's actually going to surprise, leaping outside of the window there below drop, but Davey says no to that one when he tries to roll into the site. And now it's left into the hands of JKS, stuck here, firing in all directions, hunting for something, but nothing will be found, and Abe will take him down.
Tries to murder the wall out of just pure frustration. Couldn't jump back up again. But yeah, there's the issue. Renegades decided to go for the commitment, have lost out pretty convincingly, and therefore not have the AKs into this round. Had they have saved in the last one, they'd have been able to afford them with some smokes and flashes as well. Instead, it's going to be P250s.
Second XM coming into the picture here too as well. Really just going to try to deny Renegades of any sort of entry power that they may be looking for into either one of these sites, but they're splitting up back to that default sort of lineup now, this time once again on the T side, obviously with a much lesser investment. Just P250s, and Azur's not going to buy anything whatsoever. So very, very low hopes for them to accomplish much at all in this round.
Pretty much a throwaway round for Renegades. If you can get a couple kills, it'll be more than welcome. Maybe keep a weapon alive into the next round. Bomb pump would be nice. This should be Splyce picking up a 3-0. Still extremely early days, and we haven't really seen the CTs tested too much so far. Renegade's going to be biding their time now. You can see the bomb actually dropped out on the T side of mid around the statue, so not going to see any shenanigans to start off with. And the fact that Abe and Professor Chaos have put down the hammer around drop zone, pretty much thinning out the lines for Renegades. Very few options now to try and play back with.
Trying to look for something there below drop, but again, with that minimal arsenal of just P250s, there's really not a whole lot they're going to be able to grab here. And essentially, it's just a game of hunting down the remaining members of the Renegades now. They're trying to take it slow in hopes of being able to catch somebody from Splyce out in the open, but definitely not leaning too far in their favor now, as Abe, even himself, gets a little bit aggressive here, finds them. Almost able to take down both, but he does actually end up falling, which will be a rifle onto the ground. If he wants to take this and run, he could certainly try and do so, but just going to take the fight, looking for one more tap, and he actually does dink Arya down to 24. It will not be enough to eliminate him, though, and Abe, or Arya, apologies, will actually get the shotgun kill from pretty long range.
So, by coming in, Renegade's going to have full AK-47s. Yam does have enough just about for an AWP, but glass cannon AWP on T side of Cobblestone doesn't make a whole lot of sense in this situation. However, this is going to be Splyce getting tested for the first time now, really, on their CT side. They do have an AWP for themselves in the hands of Arya, so let's see where he's going to be fanning out with this. He's going to be pushing onto the B side. Renegades again split up with that bomb drop, so no aggression early off except for Stillo, who's going to be waiting for the boost, and Arya gets picked off. That's the AWP down. Abe's also been tanked up heavily. Great start from Renegades.
And now Professor Chaos starting to fall back a little bit here too. Recovers the AWP from his fallen teammate, but needs to fall back much further onto the site to make sure that he doesn't actually get overpressured from them going into the site itself. But the Renegades now are actually going to fall back after finding that first kill. Not too keen on moving out into the site just as of yet. Still plenty of time left to play with and no reason to rush things. So still taking their good old time about it. Plus the bomb still way out in the open in middle, keeping their options open as far as where they actually want to take this towards. With Splyce still having 4 alive, they've had to go for an even split. Not going to want to risk it and leaving the A bomb site just in the hands of Jason R as of yet. They'll keep A posted up there in the doorway.
Always a nightmare to concede the first kill on the CT side of Cobblestone. It's such a vast map with fairly long rotations. You have to be very careful. Sometimes you will see the CTs go for an opportunistic push and try and get some information, and that's exactly what JR's got. Gets the kill and backs away. It's a big passage of play, and will keep himself alive. So a perfect answer back. 35 seconds left on the timer as well, Blue. So Renegade's going to have to get a move on onto this A site, which is where the bomb is right now.
Now starting to push their way up the T-ramp into that A-bomb site. You're still going to be a bit of a later entry going in through drop there. Professor Chaos will be watching out from those, so he's going to need to be cautious of that one. But in the meantime, on the site itself, it's Azza that strikes first, with Professor Chaos responding back in turn to take down Ustilo. That stops the wedge from being driven in, but in the meantime, on the site itself, they're making much better progress. Taking down Abe. Azza trying to line up actually that shot against Professor Chaos, but he misses the mark big time. And with that, they're still going to have a chance to get back into the site. Davey leaping down, grabs that shot onto JKS while falling, takes him down. He's going to look for some more, but he can't find the mark there. Professor Chaos having some better luck though, takes down Yam, looking for that last one, but he can't find it. Azur has the better position, and he'll be able to close this round out for the Renegades.
Issue for Renegades, though, they lost 4 weapons, and even though they're on the T side, they are going to be struggling a little bit now. That being said, Splyce aren't in perfect economic status either. So 5-7 for Abe, Kevlar behind it, 14 Nova picked up. Dropped him down to Professor Chaos, but we are in that tipping point now, Blue, where whichever team wins this round, the opposite is going to be broken financially. So this is a 2-for-1 round at least.
Ustilo again very, very quickly out onto the platform to try and hunt down somebody who would be boosting. I think they've learned their lesson from that on the first time though. They've got Davey close to the broken wall, but it doesn't look like he's going to be doing any sort of investigation anytime soon. In the meantime though, Ustilo is able to catch Aria peeking from the statue, and again he punishes a player, giving them the edge at the beginning of this round. Same exact thing that we did before.
Exactly the same position, and last time out it was JR that opened up on long. Try and draw this one back for them. Lack of grenades as well, except for in the hands of JR, who has the full nades at his disposal. Meanwhile, Renegades very healthy. They've got 3 mollies still in play. Smokes as well to throw in. He's starting to see some of those expended. Yeah, I'm going to be pushing through. JR switches to a smoke. He's not going to get punished just yet. A matter of milliseconds between the two of them. They're not going to be butting heads just yet. Meanwhile, Renegades are starting to peer across into drop zone.
We can see again Professor Chaos trying to judge whether he wants to go in here or not. Looking to make sure he can catch these players upon the actual drop-down movement, and still not catching them. The Renegades very, very controlled in the way that they're approaching these takes. Not wanting, not really worried about running the timer down whatsoever. Seem to be in full control of those, and this time after keeping the bomb initially, along with quite a few players out towards the middle ready to push into the A site, they now call that off. Movement through the B hallways, taking very quick drop control. Sponge and Azur moving in first, but Davey is on the platform. Unfortunately, he's only able to find 1 kill, taking out Ustilo. JKS trades it out, and with that, everybody else from Splyce had bitten on a rotation towards A, so the site is wide open, and this is going to need to be a save call.
Yeah, straight up safe call. As we mentioned before, the economy in both teams was sketchy, so Splyce can't afford to throw these weapons away. I'm not entirely sold on the idea that Renegade's going to chase down too hard for this either, because they themselves need to keep these weapons in play. There was a couple of moments where Renegades nearly bit the dust. They started to peek Davey 1 by 1 instead of grouping up and pushing through at the same time. So Davey just missed that second shot, cost him his life. Renegades are going to pick up their 2nd consecutive round though. Looks like Splyce will keep all these 3 weapons intact.
And so now here, the guys from Splyce making it out of this round alive, but where exactly does that leave the rest of their players economically is going to be the question coming off this, and you can see it from the score, but there's not much left over. At most, we're looking at about $2,000 for the entire team combined, plus what they're getting from the losing bonus now, which is just starting off, so maybe a couple more upgraded pistols coming in, tossed out from the teammates that do manage to save those guns, but in all reality here, I don't think going for a full-on force-up is going to be in the picture.
It's a difficult decision because they could feasibly go for it. They could have a couple of pistols dropped and then go for the Kevlar behind it for Splyce. You can see Professor Chaos has dropped down to $950. But this does keep them still in the realms of possibility into round number 6 for Splyce. But you've got to say on paper, Renegades will be firm favourites. Again, full grenades and AWP in the hands of Yam. Sponge has a Galil, but when he's up against a Nova, a CZ and a Deagle, that should be more than good enough. And some damage is being inflicted onto JR through mid-doors. He's going to hold his ground, just loses 18 in the process.
JKS starting to move his way up there as well. May think to investigate inside of the mid-connector, but restraining himself at the time being. You can see it once more, though. It's Ustilo creeping up. Davey's trying to look out for him there. They've kind of gotten used to this, and he's got an angle to spot through that smoke. Nicely played by Davey. Finally denies Ustilo that fragging power that he's been using quite well in the past 2 rounds. Takes it down. And the guys from Splyce will have the edge at the beginning. Azur, though, just leaping into the flames. Going to try to jump out the window, but Abe spots that coming from a mile away as well. Takes down Azur, and so far, things for the Renegades all of a sudden are not going very well at all.
A little bit surprised that Azur went down by himself, lone wolf style. I can understand the aggression, trying to catch them off guard as the mollies were placed on the ground, but surely he realizes that Splyce's economy isn't in great shape, so in terms of grenades, probably going to be fairly sparse for the CTs. I feel like you just gift wrapped a free AK across to the CTs now and just bolster their defenses even more. 35 seconds left. B is going to be the site of choice. Sponge still is lurking in the shadows of drop. Flashbang lands square in the face of Professor Chaos. He's not going to get punished though. This utility hasn't done a great deal so far for Renegades. I'm going to go to HE and a smoke that remains in 20 seconds now on the timer. Time itself is becoming an enemy of the Aussies. Professor Chaos lands the Nova shot. Sponge goes down. Now a very one-dimensional push onto the site, but JKS comes out, ripping the head off Davey. There's Yam with the AWP, keeping the dream alive, and the bomb is going to get planted, but here comes the retake from Splyce, and it's going to be the Nova that comes good. Yam lands the shot onto Arya, a 2v1, but Yam's position is known.
With that, he's going to get mollied out from the box halls. However, we can see, though, that the bomb is planted in a decent position to where he can fall back a little bit more here and still have the angle against it. They're creeping back up. He, however, has fallen. All right, guys, we are back. Now, we do apologize for that bit of a pause there. It seemed we had some internet problems, but they have been solved. One round was played out, I believe, during the course of the stream, not being responsive, and Splyce took it. So they are currently 6-3. Pretty close retake, but they did manage to pull it off there after Renegades was holding the site in a 2-on-3 after the initial trade. But going right into this next one, it's going to be a full gun round. Still double op setup for the guys on Splyce, and the Renegades are trying to force some pressure close to the A bomb site.
The great news for Splyce as well is there's a very small kill spread between the team, only 4 in total. Everyone's pulling their weight, which means there's no weaknesses on the map right now. There's nowhere that Renegades can try and force through and exploit to a lot of teams go for that one. Davey holding his own in danger. Puts down Sponge, who's bottom fragging for Renegades. So his woes continue. JR misses the shot onto long. And you'll be a bit disappointed he didn't connect that one, but he is able to scamper away. It's that great cost though, down to 41 alongside Davies, 19 health. So Splyce are looking pretty, but this could quickly shift around in the Aussies' favour.
As they're unfortunately going to be caught unawares to Professor Chaos peeking him and is unable to adjust his aim in time. So another one will go down for the Aussies. And now, really going to be struggling even to start any sort of execute here just because they're so limited now. Starting to use what utility they do have left to get into this site. You can see the smokes broiling in over top, but they're going to be going towards the T-ramp instead. Tag a little bit, but he's out, and what? Just gives himself out, essentially, to the Renegades, unaware to the fact that 3 players are peeking. That's a good shot from Jason R, though, jumping quickly up on top of the shed. Lucilo trying to go for the cross, but Davey, little did they know, he's around the corner, and he's going to mess up there, too. Tries to jump away with the knife in hand. There's a good pickup from Yam as he takes down A, but all of a sudden, this round is getting turned in all sorts of directions. Yam, the last one alive in a 1v2 spots Jason R, but now he's going to be under pressure very quickly because they found out where exactly Yam is hiding out from. 16 seconds left to go. He can make a run for the B bomb set right now, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Molly's up the main doorway, still making a run for it. Professor Chaos running through the smoke, or the volley that was being tossed on the ground, so they're just going to try to stop from grinding the plan outright, and Professor Chaos is going to succeed in doing so. Takes down Yam and Splyce, pick up a 7th round.
You can see what Yam was going for, just didn't quite pay off in time, and a real scrappy round. Jason R missed a couple shots on long, but then made amends with it with a beautiful flick onto the headshot wall. Double ops again with Davey on an XM. We've seen this before. Renegades have very little to play with. P250s and a deagle. Flashbang for Azza. So maybe we're going to see a pop flash into a fast play through mid. Looks to be where Renegades are congregating. That smoke could keep them at arm's length for a little while longer. Grave has missed his first opportunity. Double spray down is going to come in though onto his Stillo. And there's Jason R for his 2nd kill as well. So a great cleanup from the CTs, and Renegades just have Yam with his deagle.
Jason R punching in, stealing some kills, it would seem. No, let's get into some of the action there too. And Yam is the last one alive, is unfortunately not going to be able to shut down Abe, who doesn't take a single point of damage despite being right up front and center against essentially the entire brunt of the Renegades forces coming in there. So nicely played by both Jason R and Abe to hold that pressure point.
Again, it's a bit of a throwaway round for Renegades. They couldn't really hope to get too much out of that, hoping that maybe Abe whiffed his opportunity, gets picked off, and they can just charge onto the site. And that's where Jason R's playing the AWP, so if you can get up close and personal, it's difficult to kill all 5 players by yourself. And see what they're going for. Didn't work. 5-round deficit. They have to start bringing this back. Cobblestone, a map that isn't super heavily CT-sided, so Renegades will be hoping for 6, 7, 8 rounds, and that grenade lands plumb in the face of Astillo. 84 health evaporates.
Force him out of that aggressive position fairly quickly. This has been something that they were using quite effectively in order to find ways onto the V-bombs to initially find that one entry or two that is really needed to get your team past this broken wall point that can often be a very big pressure issue for teams to really get past there and actually forge their way onto the site finding a plant. So if he's still being denied that opportunity so many times now, it's become an issue for Renegades just to get into a bomb state to begin with. They've tried to adjust for this by switching over to A hits, but unfortunately those are not going very well either, so they're still allowing Splyce to have a very big lead on the CT side.
Splyce having 3 players already dropped double digits, so not really firing on all cylinders. There's still grenades to play with for Renegades, 45 seconds in which to utilize them. But in rifle rounds, they really haven't had much potency. Splyce gonna have Davey now holding a different angle. We haven't seen him with the XM so far on the alcove. The Molotovs and the flashes are gonna keep Renegades at bay for now, but here comes the retaliation charge. Professor Chaos gets picked off in midair from JKS, but Arya has it locked down from range, and you can see they were not expecting this. Davey out the shadows, steps in, sweeps aside Sponge and is still out, and a third as he trades across to the AK-47. Beautiful round from Splyce. Renegades are reeling, and they're going to call a pause, and I assume this is going to be a tactical one.
Those auto shot, he's doing absolute work. Just shotguns in general for Splyce here on the CT side have been quite incredible in the way how effective they've been at closing out situations time after time again. This is Davey just making a mockery of that push from the Renegades there, and we've seen it before with the Nova being used, I believe, by Professor Chaos in one round. He picks up 3 kills as well and turns the entire economy for the guys at Splyce on its heels, where they were about to be broken, and all of a sudden they were rich as hell simply from that single play.
Renegades, we said before, coming into this, firm favourites for me at least, especially on Cobblestone. They just haven't shown up so far. I've seen nothing that's really given me any confidence in them bringing this back.
The thing to keep in mind with Splyce, I feel, and this applies to a lot of teams, even like higher up North American ones. I think CLG is like the worst example of this among like greater North American teams, is that they're very momentum based in the way that they play their game. So they've started off well here. They've been able to keep that going. A few bumps in the road here or there, but they almost always recover very quickly. And with that, there's a constant good sort of emotional level going for the guys here on Splyce. And I mean, definitely for Splyce, you guys don't hear it, but you've seen it in the past. If you watch the MLG qualifier, like these guys start yelling when they win rounds and whatnot. They get all hype about it. I posted a video of it on Twitter yesterday. They're doing it here, despite the fact that you may not be hearing it, and that keeps a very good mood going for those guys when they can consistently win rounds. Now, if the Renegades can get in the way of that and start picking up some of their own rounds here to sort of bring them down a little bit, I feel like they're going to snowball a bit too and start to come back pretty quickly.
The thing is, though, I would say a lot of what you just mentioned there also applies to Renegades. I feel they're a momentum-based team that need to get in the rounds, you know, coming in thick and fast. And right now, we've only seen, let's have a look, it's 2 rounds and then the one afterwards. They haven't really got any sprees together where we've seen vast amounts of rounds back-to-back from Splyce. I think they picked up like 7 rounds in a row, something crazy like that. So you're in that kind of position right now where if you're Renegades, this is where someone has to step up to the plate and say, okay, boys, let's get a calm head on our shoulders. We're playing for the major. Let's not throw this opportunity away, because we lose this game with 0-2. We're pretty much already a foot out of the qualifiers to go through to Cologne. So they've got to get something done. They're going to go for a force in this round, actually.
Sponge is a bit of a drop-off as well, because he was actually like leading the way for this team yesterday, which can be a good thing depending on the way you're looking at it. Obviously, it's the IGL that may not prove to be a good thing, but with him having a much lessened performance from yesterday as well, it's definitely not going to be doing them any favors of trying to bounce back, especially against a team like Splyce, where looking at it just on paper, they should absolutely win the matchup.
They really should. I mean, I've seen the last time they had Tech9s, they went for an all-out rush. No quarter given. It seems like we may see a repeat performance through onto the B platform, where 4 players will be going through. The last one in drop. Bastillo's already made a lot of real estate coming, but Ari with 2 beautiful shots is going to open up this round and pretty much close it as well in the face of Renegades. It's just Azza with his Tech9 switches to the M4, but all it will do is delay the inevitable for a couple more seconds. Splyce already on 10. And this is not a map where the CT should be landing 10 rounds.
Here's the other issue too, is just look at the amount of, like, obviously only 2 rounds left, but this has been an issue for a couple rounds running now. The huge amount of cash that Splyce have stacked up. It's about $10,000 on 2 players, a few more sitting just below that. The only one that's really in a risky position is Professor Chaos, because he's been front and center and has usually been the player that ends up getting traded out once or twice. But these rounds from the Renegades, they're not making any progress whatsoever. Splyce are just holding full control of these sites, not giving them any room to maneuver at all. They're stacking up a huge amount of cash on the CT side, which is a very, very rare sight here on Cobblestone.
I think you're now starting to see a bit of desperation, just saying, okay, the slow rounds have just not worked for us, boys. Let's go into autopilot. Let's see if we can get it done that way. Abe with 1 kill. Thought he might be good for 2. He will bite the dust, and this now allows Renegades to get their way across to the site, get the bomb planted. Sentry will connect, and so will a headshot from Yam. Much better from Renegades. Maybe this all-out charge is going to reap the rewards. They're going to get a 4th round. It's looking very likely. Ari up with the AWP. You said before, though, Blue, there's got so much money in the bank. He doesn't have to save this AWP necessarily. He may just go for broken. You can see him throwing it away to make sure that Renegades couldn't get their hands on it just before he dies. That's actually pretty smart overall, I've got to say.
Ended up being kind of epic, too. Yeah. It's like his last final act. Don't let them have it.
Screw this AWP for no particular reason.
If I can't have the kingdom, no one can. So they'll throw that away, and of course we'll have no trouble reinvesting to it. And the Renegades, in theory, actually probably could have bought 1 or 2 of those up, because we're looking at about 2K on 3 or 4 of their guys left over here, so it wouldn't have been too much trouble to go for the op anyway. But regardless, there's the long smoke tossing its way in, being driven in, and that means it's probably going to be the A split now, as they will use some of their players to get into drop. But he's still actually very active on just going for a B approach, trying to fake this. And look at him just rushing his way into the site there. Somehow grabs 2 kills. Arya, Abe, and now Professor Chaos all goes down to him. Finally going to be stopped by Davey, but that's a huge amount of damage done, and that's a fake. They're not even going into this B site.
Now they wish they took the bomb with him. Like, never expect him to get 3 kills by himself. And where was this Renegades a few rounds ago? Just suddenly out of nowhere after that pause, just saying, screw it, let's go hyper-aggressive, let's land some headshots. Jason, our last player remaining for this half for Splyce. Can he pull off a ridiculous clutch? Can he channel it in a little, I suppose, is the question now. It's not looking good, is it, Blue? As soon as he comes through that smoke, he should be a dead man.
Trying to hope he can grab something there. Some damage was done to Yem. I don't really know where from, but now he's been digged out of 5 HP, and Yem is going to be able to move in to finish him off. So the Renegades will swing back a little bit there. Still 10-5, but that's a huge half for Splyce. But regardless, though, guys, that is going to close out things in the first half. We'll be right back in just a few minutes with the second. It's Splyce versus Renegades. The first half concluding a barnstormer for Splyce as they take the lead 10-5, but the Renegades did have some fight left in them as we closed out the first half. Now they've got to keep it going strong to tie this game up and try to win it out now on their CT side. We're going live right now, and that is, let's get into it.
Huge round for Renegades. They have been struggling. They've been up against the current of Splyce. And if they want to bounce back on what a lot of people would say is the more difficult side of Cobblestone, it has to start right here, right now. Davey is going to get aggressed from Azza and will end up getting picked off, but it was a fake. It was a bit of interference play because the bulk of the aggression from Splyce is heading towards the A site, and it will get this plant down, as will Professor Chaos. Lands a headshot onto Yam. Beautiful play from Splyce, but can they hold on? This retake coming in now from Renegades.
Jason R and Abe trying to hold the wall essentially now as the Renegades will look to push their way back in. Abe picking up a first one. Professor Chaos doing some work as well. Ustila, though, we've already seen him doing work moving out aggressively. And then JKS going to rack up 2 for the Renegade side, evening things back out now. And Ustila jumping back up onto the site. Artie is still holding strong though, and it's all brought into the hands of Ustilo, trying to clutch this out up on top of the shed, leaping down quickly so as not to get flanked, but eventually Professor Chaos is going to find the headshot, and Splyce keep the lead going for themselves into the second half.
I don't want to call this game too early, but this has just stacked the odds so heavily in Splyce's favor. The CT economy is going to be a constant thorn in the side of Renegades. It's going to have to take some crazy Herculean effort for them to fend off these pushes. And to make matters worse, Sponge is 2 for 13. This is a guy you need to be stepping up, and he's just not really done much for his team. I don't think that's an unfair statement to make.
Especially when you consider that everybody else is basically even, so it's not even like you have a top heavy guy and a low guy, but there's a good shot from Yam, bringing down Davey. Professor Chaos, though, still doing some work too, rushing into the site. Splyce are wasting no time trying to take as much control as humanly possible. They need to make sure that the Renegades don't win this force-up attempt to try and debalance the economy. Yam, though, still doing work, and that's the bomb going down out into the open still, so the guys from the Renegades may have an opportunity to swing this back. With Hauser taking down Ari, that's going to be a great way to do it. Abe, though, jumping right back in, takes down Yam. All in the hands of both Sponge and Azur now to try and win this out. And Sponge, oh no! He's just barely going to survive that, but now has to hide behind the cubby over here with only 8 HP.
So low, but he does have Azur watching just above him. The bomb's still out. It is very easily salvageable, especially as Sponge is low. He's not going to re-peek unless it's absolutely required. But this is where Splyce can start to play some of those mind games. CTs don't have eyes on the bomb. They're not sure if it's already been picked up or not. Renegades could already be feeling like that B push is imminent, so they've got to stay in position here. Sponge simply can't afford to go peeking. Splyce don't have a HE or anything to clear out that side. Just a flashbang and a decoy. Will be now maneuvering their way in, but Sponge only has a P250 with a deagle. Maybe he can get that one-tap. P250's not going to quite be as potent, and Abe just spins around. Here comes Sponge with the first kill, and now suddenly this is doable. Abe's only on 22 health if Sponge plays his cards right. This round will be going the way of Renegades, and a much-needed one at that. Abe is peering the wrong side, but still gets the kill onto Sponge. And the dream is dead. Renegades are going to concede the round, and they don't have enough funds to go for a decent buy in this round either.
We talked about Sponge needing to step up there, and he almost brought a hero play in for his team to try and upset the balance. Brought down to 8 HP, picks up that first kill, and has a perfect angle to find the second kill, but we cannot underscore how great of a reaction that was from Abe just to react that quickly, find the flick, essentially, and take him down to prevent him being eliminated. So, good recovery by Splyce. Well, that was a bit of an unturn of the balance, considering they did have a huge gun advantage going into that one. This time, though, it's going to be much easier, as the Renegades are not really going to be able to justify going for a force-up. It's just USPs and a single P250 sitting on Sponge.
That's absolutely it. They went for the force in the last round with the scout and pistols. They can't afford to go for it again, otherwise that could pretty much just single-handedly make them bow to this matchup when they desperately needed to win. They could still do it. We've seen crazier things happen in Counter-Strike, but this round is a formality for Splyce. Just a P250 for Sponge. Everyone else with the USPs, it would take a pretty big throw for Splyce to lose from this point.
Davey having some trouble though initially, but keep in mind this is not where the bomb is currently working its way towards. Depending on what they do with it now, is they've just retrieved it inside of the main hallway there, closer towards B. The rest, though, getting a lot of control of the platform. This, though, is the contention point. This is where you actually got to work your way out. However, everybody else that was pushing into A is very quickly going to swing in this direction. Thankfully, though, with Sponge getting it as aggressive as he has, pushing all the way down the suicide steps, we're going to know for sure it's coming into this site. Maybe finds his first kill, but JKS on the open there, doing some work. Indeed, what is going on? As now it's a 3-on-4, and with Davey so low, Jason R, what are you even looking at there, bud? JKS is going to take him down. Abe, though, already having a good play in that last round. I'm going to try to recover this again. It's back down to a 2v2, but everybody else on Splyce is so injured right now.
All right, boys, we've got the weapon advantage. Let's go out one by one. Brilliant. Let's conga line our ways to death, because that seems to be the play, the legit play. Both players incredibly low, so this is where MAC-10 that's been picked up on the USP can really thrive, and now it falls to Davey. Must be scratching his head, wondering what the hell just happened to the rest of his team as he's put 6 foot under. And honestly, Splyce, what was that, boys? What was that?
Zero investment does all the kills. Sponge didn't even get a kill with the P250, so literally nothing was needed in order to impact there.
But they even had nades. They died with Molotovs and flashes and smokes in their hands, so once he pinpointed where a couple players are, they saw Rock, they saw Chicken Coop, why not just toss a grenade over there? Why not try at least to play into your advantages and the weaknesses of Renegades? That is mind-blowing, but now suddenly, off that one round, Renegades have bolstered their economy massively, and Splyce find themselves on the receiving end of an economic downturn. They've got pistols, and that's about it.
Still a decent round cushion to work with, though, for Splyce, but it's all about a sort of recovery from that one, considering the mental aspects of losing a round such as that are going to be huge, especially for a team that seems to suffer from that quite a bit. Getting tossed out does some good damage to Arya, but not going to connect to much else beyond that. The Molly, though, it's huge work and holding the back, and now Sponge rolling in there with 2 easy frags. Davey and Jason are both go down. JKS picks up a 3rd, and you steal it with the 4th. Professor Chaos is going to be easy pickings for Renegades to pick up a 7th round.
Take nothing away from Renegades, though. You can only beat what's ahead of you, and they did a fantastic job of taking the round. And now, that does give them an extra lifeline. They have a bit of economy to fall back on. Yam on 6.2k. They're going to be keeping it with the assault rifles for this round. If a player dies, they can easily replenish it with an AWP. And Splyce, I'm going to go for the half buy. So still no AKs coming in, no AWPs for Splyce. Tech 9's Deagle. This is Renegade's chance. You have got to start putting together some rounds here. You can't afford to falter now.
The guys from Splyce going very, very quickly towards that A bomb site. JKS is going to be under pressure pretty quickly here too. He's getting grabbed. He's got nobody else on that A site. They all going to rotate over very quickly. It's up to Splyce now to get up to the platform and get the bomb onto the ground. Davey finding his first mark against Ustilo. JKS doesn't impact at all, and that's a very quick bomb plant too. They're already up on the platform now, establishing full control of this one. Down to 3 for the guys on the Renegades. 2 now as Arya finds another mark. And he's even going to push forward and take down Azur as well. So there you have it. The round's over. Yam's got to retreat and save. And Splyce, who just bounced back once again. And not only this, but 3 rifles for free. Possibly a 4th, too, if they can move around and retrieve it.
It's nuts to me how Renegades take 1 step forward and like 50 backwards. Yes, we ecoed them, we got this, and then 2 rounds later lose, and suddenly they're right back up the creek without a paddle.
It's just such a basic play, too, that allows Splyce to battle back in them. Literally rushing the A-bomb site.
You had 4 Tech 9s with Deagle. They had Kevlar behind it. They didn't lose a single player. I mean, that pretty much sums up that round in a nutshell. You can't really say much else. Splyce just wrecked them with pistols, ultimately.
So with that said, now Splyce take back control of things, but the Renegades can no longer afford to save in order to wait for a much more fruitful buy. They're just going to go in with whatever they can afford this time. Azur's going to be downgrading himself to a UMP so that he can get better utility buys. He's still going for the PAMAS, and Yam is still able to invest completely with an op included and full utility. There's a good first mark. He knows the second there, and he's going to shut it down. They're still trying to battle back into this in Splyce. They don't have this match under their belt just yet.
Very well played from Yam. Goes for that repeat, realizing not only is he by himself ultimately, but they don't have a lot of grenades to play with either on Renegades, so you have to take those opportunities when they rise up for you. And that one passage of play, he alleviated so much pressure off Renegades. They can now set some of those crossfires up. They don't have to worry about spreading themselves too thin across the map. But make no mistake, Splyce is still in this round. They have Arya with the AWP. They've got plenty of grenades at their disposal. And we've seen Renegades lose from better positions than this. Bastillo, though, on the boost, gets the better of Davey.
Arya moving back up now, too. He's going to try to find something in order to allow them to get into this bomb site, but they've brought down to such little offensive power now that it's going to be so hard to move in, and the Renegades actually not really being too aggressive about this, just hiding back in the site. They're going to let them play a little bit more, and yeah, I'm actually hoping for a wider peek there from Professor Chaos. Not going to be obliged with it. He does get the position of him, and they know that there is still a presence leaning towards this A site. Another missed shot coming out from Arya there, too. Again, this time, though, against the Renegades.
Time left on the clock for Splyce to try and make this a little bit apprehensive for Renegades, but it is dwindling down quickly, and judging from their positions, they're happy enough to just tap out. Say, okay, we've got a decent lead right now. We're going to be 5 rounds in the lead after this one. There's no rush. Slow and steady will win the race. You have to assume that Renegades will slip on a couple more plays in the future, but great news for Renegades. All 5 players keep alive. They can start to build their own economy back up again, get some grenades, get some kits in their hands, and make a real go at this. And I think Azur just switched across to an M4 as well from the UMP that he was using. So across the board, good news for Renegades as well.
That is a bit risky, though, again, to see that they're going right into this next investment. However, they just don't assume they can take any risks with the SMGs now against full rifle buys coming out from Splyce, which they're still going to be able to afford to do. Despite those 2 players not really getting any extra income from saving, they're going to have enough left over to be able to still go for the full investment on this next round, of course. And for the Renegades, they're not going to want to risk going up against anything less than that, considering they are so close to losing this map. So flying right back up, and unfortunately that denies them the opportunity to try and build up any sort of a bank here, leaving both Ustilo and Sponge with very low amounts, 1450 and 1750. Same thing for JKS down at 1450.
Splyce just holding back again. It's a bit surprising to me because Renegades have shown no real interest in playing aggressively, apart from Yam, who went for that double peak. Sponge with 2 kills. He got one, I thought he was a dead man, but actually comes out with 2 headshots. Unreal, especially from a player who's been eerily quiet this match. Finally stepping up. It's a 3-on-4. Sponge and Davey both find themselves very close to death, however.
Wasn't even fully established in that position either. Was just peeking himself up on top, and then he grabs both of those kills. So nicely played there by Sponge. And beyond this, though, they seem to be handling the rest of the aggression coming out from Splyce quite nicely. Abe and Arya both going to try to push in from alternate angles here. Abe will have to control the bomb and bring it into the site, but Arya is getting a lot of control towards the A site for free right now. Sponge is not going to spot him. He's perched back. Arya does have a blockade in his way, though, there, so now he's going to try to creep out in another direction, just trying to investigate this site as much as he can. He will have to deal with JKS more than likely in a moment, though, as he is coming back in. Thankfully, though, for him, there's no way they're expecting him to be this deep in this site. And there's the first pickup, and the bomb is on its way around, too, in the hands of Abe.
Yeah, as it was Sponge who got the 2 kills, and they know he knew he wasn't dead. That's exactly what Arya was going for. He was looking, he was trying to get his prey down. Oh my goodness, Azra decides to jump through while flashbanged, and gives his life away for free to Splyce with 5 seconds to go. The bomb's going to get planted. And suddenly Renegades are on the brink of another collapse, and the Molotov has landed. It's going to burn out Arya, and there's JKS with a headshot afterwards to Renegades. Again, digging deep and coming out triumphant. So close, though. If Splyce land one more shot, it'll be 14-7 in the lead, and this could be all over.
Being given such a huge opportunity like that to move in on a flank and then take control of the site. Thought Splyce would have had that in the bag, and you can see there, too. It's Arya that opens things up. Sneaky peeky-like. His teammates do roll in, though, but they're never really able to establish themselves in any post-plants. It just seems like this match is getting very, very messy for both sides.
Yeah.
As they can't really seem to get a consistent string of rounds together just to try and close it out on either end.
I think it's safe to say this isn't the best Counter-Strike Euroverse ever watched. It's weird and entertaining in that respect that both teams are struggling, but here is the spray down in effect, just locking down with the bullets. He's not going to manage to finish off the final player, but JKS was good for 3. Abe, last player, could get knifed, get shanked from Yam. Jumps down.
A stylish one, too.
Yeah, the knife between his shoulder blades from up high. Nicely done, but again, Splyce didn't have much going into that round. It's not as if it was a rifle round they just got wrecked on. It was by and large pistols with Kevlar.
It's a touchdown from Uptown as he moves in with the knife and shivs him right in the back to close it. We will be going into a pause now for the guys on Splyce, as things definitely have gotten a bit out of hand here now. Renegades have now found their footing, and they are crawling their way back from the depths. So they'll need a moment to recenter their own strat. Sitting at a decent amount of cash, so still going to be looking at an investment more than likely in this round, but they need to start impacting here because any more rounds being put up by the CTs is going to allow them to get back into this game and maybe even steal the victory away after Splyce had such a strong lead, even going into the first parts of this half.
Well, that's exactly the situation they find themselves in. Splyce can get a bye. If they went for an AWP, it would be glass cannon, so I feel like AKs will be coming through, especially as Renegades have been playing fairly passively, quite deep on the sites, with the exception of Yam, who's pushed up long a couple of times. We saw the boost from Sponge utilised very strongly in the last round, but before that they hadn't gone for it, so it was more of a gimmicky play in that sense. I don't expect Renegades would go for that boost again, to be honest. It would be a bit of a misplay, so I feel AKs will be coming in for Splyce. If they do go for an AWP, then it may be based off a spawn, because Abe doesn't have the worst spawn, neither does Arya, to maybe try and push on B, but there's a lot of maybes, ifs and buts here. This is what's going to be going through the minds of Splyce. And also just trying to calm themselves down, because they were looking in such a fantastic position. It was, what, 13-8, I think, at one point? Yep. And now suddenly it slipped back to a 13-10. They still have the advantage. It's important to keep that in mind. It looks bad and it feels bad to be on the receiving end of a battering these last few rounds, but they still find themselves in the lead.
Credit where credit is due, though. Of course, we did need to look towards Sponge to improve his own individual performance, despite the fact that he's the IGL, and he's done that. Actually, there's been quite a few really great plays from him. He almost pulls off that clutch in one of the rounds where he's working with a P50. I think that was the second round force-up, actually, where he almost was able to clutch that one out. Falls a little bit short because of a clutch out from Abe, but later on we see him pulling off that boost play there, where he picks up 2 players while he's under pressure and still actually trying to establish his own position on that boost. And a few other times as well, he's been able to impact fairly greatly. So he's still battling his way back on the scoreboard, but definitely impacting way more in this second half than we saw really at all in the first half.
Oh, absolutely. The thing is, on CT side, of course, it will favour certain players that are more static and like to play more passively and basically say, come at us, bros. They're going to perform better on CT side, right? Which is, I feel, where Sponge is in his element. So it does make a lot of sense that he'd be playing better here. But either way, you've got an AWP in the hands of Yam. As expected, it's full AKs for Splyce. I can't see why he'd go for an AWP in this situation. It just hampers you so much. But our Splyce going to be playing the aggressive roles with the AKs. They've got a lot of grenades to play with as well.
Pretty directly into the hallways there, but then splitting it up a bit. Jason R pressing himself forward all the way out to the area besides the platform, and that smoke is going to get tossed, but I'm curious as to where exactly it was trying to be thrown towards there, as it seemed like it just went out of the map entirely. Now as they work their way out, Jason R pull off some of the work of Stillo from before, but he finds his kill into JKS, and now Renegades have no clue what to make of this.
What is that play? Why? Just as I was saying, they're not playing super aggressive. He just charges through by himself with a knife out. Are you mental? Well, you're dead. That much is for sure. Splyce are going to get themselves a player advantage as we were speaking, and Jason R and Abe, the last two players, are going to get the bomb planted, falling on Ustillo with the M4. It's a play I'll never understand. Maybe ask the analyst desk about that one.
Stillo trying to clutch this out. He does find the first mark, and now look at also how far away Jason R is. He's still rotating in from his action earlier on towards the B side. So the smoke's going to go in. He's jumping on it. Jason R going to go for the spray. He's only got 10 HP, but you are way too far to the left, bro. Aim a little more to the right, and he's not going to find it. Stillo just walks right in, tosses the smoke, and finds the easy defuse to give Renegades the 11th round, where it again seemed like Splyce had it in the bag, but Renegades battle back from the brink off of an earlier mistake in the round from Splyce. Seem a bit disappointed.
I don't even know.
You're
I don't even. Blue. At this point, I don't even.
Faces in your hands there. Just
it was
face palming a little bit
for a few seconds. Splyce, that was their chance, man. That was their chance to finalize this map by and large. It would have given them such an advantage. Jams ate a bit of damage from the carpet of fire that was below his feet. Ooh, that grenades.
It seemed like it would have done way more damage, but you know, the tiny little column.
It did chip away at a few players, in fairness. Did a fair chunk, maybe about 50 health in total, but it could have been a whole lot worse. Yam shooting into Arya, misses the second one, but that Tech 9 is going to come good, and now they can trade across to the AWP. Professor Chaos has it. A lot of time to play with as well, so Renegades threw the flash in early on to stop that onslaught from even starting, but in doing so now, Splyce have options. They have the decision to try and force their way through, especially as Davey is throwing a spanner in the works, coming through on drop, looking in to connect the second kill for Davey. This is beautiful individual play. There's one more player over on the B side. If he can take down this, then Renegades likely will rotate their A defender over towards B, and that could cost them the round, but Ustillo holds firm.
Taking down Davey now, so 3 still up and running for Splyce, but very split up. Professor Chaos is going to move in to try and get off any rotators that were moving in from the B bomb side. Fires off a shot, which rings true, but doesn't make any connections. It is going to be enough, though, to keep... Oh my goodness. They're being taken for a ride once again. They just took down Professor Chaos, but with that, they've now given over free control of the A bomb site to the members of Splyce, and they're going to have to rotate in. They've been smoked off. And once more, they've just got to battle back to get this control. It's definitely still a possibility to do this, but again, not having any site control at all is not going to be helping them out here.
Yeah, mind games for days. Jason have the chance, and now it all falls to the shoulders of Abe. Are they going to expect a double stack on the site? Oh, they weren't, but Ustillo's going to get the better of Abe with 19 health, and you can see again that Renegades somehow slithering by. Ustillo with 4 kills. The player in Chicken Coop who stopped Davies' pretty sick play. It's going to come full circle and round it up. So Renegades will be 1 round shy now. So that pause from Splyce, not quite paying off just yet.
And going back all the way over there too to recover the op, in case anybody was wondering why there was a delay on that defuse. So they'll be able to get that in their hands for free. And that'll be another bit of a boost to their own sort of build-up here as we're coming into the closing rounds of the second half. The closing rounds of regulation time as this has gotten extremely close now. And for Splyce, they've essentially lost the lead. Only 1 more round in their favor here. And the Renegades on a bit of a hot streak now seem to be strong to actually bounce back and tie it up.
The weird thing is, though, they've been on a hot streak, but these last 2 rounds have been so up in the air. I don't think you can, with whole confidence from Renegades, think, well, we earned both of those rounds, because there were some serious mistakes, but they have won the last 5, including 3 defuses, though. Just goes to show again how on another day Splyce will already be victors and 1-1 overall in the qualifiers. But as it stands, Renegades breathing down their neck, keeping that pressure on. And this is where teams like Splyce typically do struggle to get their feet over the finish line.
Keep in mind, too, those plants are what is... Oh, that's a nice shot from Yam. He's going to look for another one here, but I don't think he's going to be obliged with the PQ. Well, oh my goodness! Nice. Davey just can't take down Yam in time, and he grabs him while still completely blind, relying off of the shot. But going back to what I was saying, I mean, Splyce, the only thing that's keeping them going economically in this game at this point is the fact that they're consistently finding plants, but they may finally be stopped in that regard here on this round. Abe spots a foot, but only ends up giving his position away. Sponge is going to take him down. In this round, we're not seeing anything at all from the guys on Splyce, unfortunately. Haven't taken down a single member of the Renegades as of yet.
Well, Yam needs to take him out, because he's landed a lot of impact kills with the AWP. We saw an A long, and then shifting it up onto the B plat. Professor Chaos and Jason are with it all to do. Got a bit of utility amongst the two of them. Professor Chaos throwing a smoke up onto the door. Gonna block off a bit of vision from the CTs, but they're split up actually. They may be going for another fake. Professor Chaos is trying his best to say, boys, we're coming A, but no one's listening from Renegades. It's gonna leave Jason R with the bomb all by himself. They're gonna try and split onto the side. Ustilo plays it perfectly, catches Jason R unaware. And that will be it all even again. 13 apiece between the two teams. And Splyce, you called it before, they were living on, they were hanging on by a thread due to their bomb plants. No bomb plant in that round, so it's going to be Tech9ers and Kevlar into this one.
The good news is that they've been working with the full losing bonus now because Renegades won so many rounds in a row here, so they're still going to be able to go for a Tech9 armor round and be available to invest in the next one, assuming they lose it, or really, regardless of that. If they win it or lose it, they'll still be going for a full investment on this next round. But the Tech9 armor, there's still a very viable chance they can rush into one of these sites and take good control, and that's exactly what they're going to be doing. All players pushing out to the platform. Yam very up close there, but only finds his own death. Can't connect any shots onto the members of Splyce, and now they've got an off in hand, taking quick control. The bomb goes down, but Ustilo, once again, playing aggressively now on this CT side, picking up one kill, looking for the second. Professor Chaos has to bow out with that molly going on the ground, is able to reestablish his own position, and in fact finds a kill there, taking down Ustilo. Abe fragging down with the op recovered in hand from the earlier death of Yam. And Abe picking up that kill. Leaves only 2 left alive from the Renegades, but still 3 going strong here for Splyce. Nice being picked up by Davey there, takes down Azur, and JKS is caught while switching his weapon back over. So Davey's gonna close it out, and Splyce, after all that battling back from the Renegades, they're finally gonna pick one more round up here.
Really solid call. Going with the Tech9, just saying, screw it, let's just go out for an all-out rush. You normally expect maybe a drop zone rush, but actually from B plant, you could see that Yam had a good spawn, tried to jump up, and suddenly 5 players in his face. Even if he lands a sick no-scope, he's going to get charged down anyway. It's going to be, at best, a 1-for-1 trade. So great call from Splyce, catching Renegades unaware. Renegades, of course, one of the buys. They got 5 rounds on the bounce before then. In fact, maybe 6. Yeah, it was 6. Now Splyce playing aggressively on the other side of the map, but this time it may not fare as well because JKS holds down left click, picks up 2 kills for himself. Job done.
And now Jason R going to get himself beyond the platform here too. There's still 2 other members here from the Renegades placing themselves up in this site to try and defend it with more on the way. Rotating over from the site. Smart decision though being made by Splyce to fall out of here and instead switch this up to a B hit. There's way too obvious of a hit coming towards this site, so they need to try and change up the game a little bit. But even this rotation, since all has been quiet on the A site, may appear to be too obvious as well. Ustilo already crawling his way back in to watch out for this, and Davey moving his way out. Again, catches him with a nade in hand. Is going to bring him down very low, but can't actually execute him just as of yet.
Flirtatious counter-strike, but now Jason R is going to fully commit and get the bomb planted. The smoke will screen his way across. Now Ustilo gets picked off on the site. That's going to hurt Renegade's chances of retaking. All 3 funneling their way from the CT side through connector into the hands of Davey. Can't get it done with the Tech9, but the call will come out. That's vital information. 2 players through drop zone. Ari's going to shift his focus across. In actual fact, they go for the boost. Renegades, this is going to be cheeky. Ari is almost certainly going to get caught out from this one. Borrowing a huge play, and there we go. It's going to be Azur that puts the final nail on the coffin for him and also the round. And Renegades, again, refuse to go down without a fight. All even.
The guys from Splyce still not going to be able to keep them consistent. 14-14 now as we come into the final 2 rounds. And for the guys on Splyce here too, everything's so uneven with the money, but they're going to be going into this buy completely. Still going to be looking at the majority of players with AKs in hand. I believe Professor Chaos may have to downgrade to a Tech9. Beyond that, with the AKs, still going to be looking at decent utility for most other players.
Davey just 3 shy of his 30 bomb. He has been playing so well.
That's what we've come to know from Splyce is highlight show from Davey and maybe 1 or 2 other players stepping up here and there, but this match has been all about him, especially from that drop position here on the T side. He's been dominant in there. Abe's going to be moving out. He goes down first, and now the rest of the team is a bit timid. They're going out 1 by 1, which is a bit dangerous. They need to try and find a mark here against the Renegades. Yam's going to pick up a shot with the out. Professor Chaos responds with the Tech9. Able to take down Ustilo. Yam, though, is still picking up frags here behind the boost position, taking down Ari. Now looks for the no-scope against PC, but not going to be able to pick it back up. Throwing the nade and switching over to the USP. Jason R is striking back a bit here now, but they can't find any footing to be able to find this plan on the ground. And they're slowly just crumbling, it would seem, but Jason R somehow burns JKS, and now they're right back into this.
They certainly are, but again, there's 2 flashes, and there's a smoke, and Jason R lands the headshot onto Sponge, who's completely isolated from Yam. The bomb still hasn't been planted, but it will be momentarily. Yam, who has been one of the standout players, is all that remains now for Renegades. He lands the shot, but it's going to be partially through the wall. Both players would be a bullet away from death if he just brought out his side on, but he's still got the AWP in his hands. That smoke is allowing the terrorists now to try and funnel their way through, being a real pain in the backside. Yam's going to come close. Proximity with Professor Chaos, but he's going to get his head ripped off his shoulders. And Splyce, how is it even possible they won that round? Renegade's economy as well into this last one is poor, to say the least.
Such close contention throughout that entire one, and Yam was fragging like crazy at the beginning, but he seemed to have lost all his steam by the end of it. And obviously that 1-on-2 clutch is going to be very difficult to pull off. Keep in mind too, at the end of that one, even if he moved in, if he was going to be able to successfully pull that off, he only had 2 bullets left in the clip of his op, so it would have needed to be 2 perfect shots in a row. Otherwise he would have to go for a reload, and that would have been the death toll for him. Otherwise he would have to switch over to a pistol and then pull off a miracle play of closing it out from there. But Splyce hold it together. They've gotten themselves to match point. Now they've got to end it here and not get upset by this force buy from the Renegades.
The way this game's been going,
it's very possible.
who even knows, Blue? Who even knows? You would say on paper, Splyce should be finalizing this. It's a Mach 10 in the hands of Professor Chaos, which could get the better of Yam, who has no head armor, but the rest of them are going to be bullet sponges for him. You want to feel? Just a P250 and a CZ, though, on Azet and Sponge, respectively. So this is a tough ask, and I was curious if maybe Renegades, as a result of their lack of weaponry and lack of grenades, would go for an aggressive play somewhere on the map. Not the case.
Very, very slow pace from Splyce, it would seem now, where it's been high octane for a lot of this half so far, especially in these riskier situations when they seem to just want to go in and get it over with, but this time it's not the case. Taking as much time as humanly possible. Lining up now for a big play out onto that B bomb set, but they have allowed the Renegades to establish a lot of footing here too, which includes Yam inside of the cup. He's going to be peeking out now, reveals himself. Yustilo coming into support, but that Molly's going to burn Yam up. And Professor Chaos finishes him up, but he tries to leap back down from the platform. Abe finding a second one. As they're finally striking back, so the CTs can get some footing here, but they're out into the site, and there's going to be Ari with his first mark on the op. Down to just Sponge and JKS. JKS is fragging, but he needs the support of his teammate now. He's going to be rolling back into this bomb site. They've just eliminated JKS, and they're going to hear Sponge coming. They're already tapping away. There's no way he's going to be able to do much about this with just a measly little P250. They found him. Davey takes him down, and Splyce close it out 16-14.
What can you say about that? It was a yo-yo roller coaster match, back and forth, up and down. Just when you thought Renegades would bring themselves back into the map, Splyce edge ahead, and that has got to be so soul-destroying now for Renegades. They find themselves 0-2. If they lose one more match, they are not going to the major. It is that simple.
So Splyce do get to go back up to the mid pool now, where they're going to be battling up against the teams that win from the lower pool and lose from the upper pool today. And as for the Renegades now, they go into the very, very bottom pool, where they are indeed at risk of elimination tomorrow in their next match. It's going to be close, but in all honesty, I don't really think that this was like a full-on victory for the guys from Splyce. Either a lot of key mistakes being made, especially in the middle portion here of the second half, that they are going to need to look at and adjust, considering this is the second time they played Cbble now.
That's exactly it. And I would have said the same. I mean, even if Renegades won, I would have been like, well, they can't even be too happy with that victory because there were so many mistakes made.
All right, guys, well, that is going to close things out for us here. Let's throw it down to the analysts to see what they have to say about this match.
It's going to be an intriguing one to break down. We set the scene prior to this game, suggesting that Renegades, should they concede this loss, we're going to be asking a lot of questions of these gentlemen. As you know, Renegades at their best form, this would have been a walk in the park. However, Splyce pick up the victory. Pansy, Vendetta are here to break it down with me. Guys, I don't know where to start this, so I might just kind of throw it to you quite openly. What do we say about the Aussies at this point?
I think the best way to start off is kind of break it down into the halves, right? Because it felt like 2 very different matches, and it felt very competitive on the second half for me. The first half, however, looking specifically at Renegades as you started, because Splyce were perfectly fine on that half, but it was just incredibly passive. Their defaults were passive. They lacked any firepower. They lacked any sort of kind of burst towards sight. The NIP style smokes, right? The lineups that go right over the top. It was slow. It was so late to the punch. There was nothing there. It felt like such a broken team.
Isn't the whole premise of that strategy to be there to burst
the second
out
to
of plateau
to have
as soon
2
as
people
the smokes
close
land?
up, so you can just immediately pounce on the fact that the vision is gone from the opponents.
And they took
Renegades saw it, probably, oh, that looks nice.
Yeah.
And then they kind of forgot about the latter part of the strategy. But, you know, they nailed the smokes.
And then to turn the tide towards Splyce, though, you've got to give them credit. You know, they have this horrifically unorthodox, disgusting way of playing sometimes. Those shotguns.
Was it double?
Double
auto
like triple at some point. Look at his face. He's like, I
see you. I see
I
you.
made that happen. No, it's annoying to watch, and for a team who's already frustrated, imagine sitting as Renegades going, wow, this is one way for us to possibly not go forward in a tournament. So for them, already looked pretty bad. But the second half started to look more competitive for Renegades and Splyce coming together, at least in that sort of
Yeah, definitely. First off, it helps that actually Sponge contributes, because he was very, very quiet throughout the entire T-half. Got a couple of frags, started to pick up pace on the CT side, so obviously that's going to help as well. And we talked about it, you mentioned it in the pregame as well. Renegades are notoriously poor on their T side. Yeah. So very surprising that they actually started to put themselves in that kind of situation, especially with how, I guess, kind of flaky they seem, just by the fact that they get very easily, not sure if I would use the word tilted, but they get frustrated a lot, quite easily. So for them to put themselves in a position that could be potentially very dire, I don't really understand that decision making, especially when they had so little to actually fare with on the T side.
Just wrapping it up, Lauren, me and you took a quick walk over towards the player area, and I'll let you explain what we discovered. Two very different sides of the story with Splyce and Renegades.
Splyce were hyped up, right? These guys are notoriously pretty loud. We could hear them halfway down the other side of the building, getting pumped up, and that was awesome to see. And on the other side, even when Renegades were picking up rounds, they were absolutely destroyed. They were dead silent, no one was calling. I didn't even see Sponge wasn't talking, the coach wasn't talking, and it's kind of worrying. It's even just someone who's played games to see that. It's just like, there's something horrifically wrong. That was on their T side, bear in mind. Also, the one thing I want to know from Splyce possibly is if they actually did hit the A side more on their T side to try and exploit that. So that's something that's in the back of my mind, at least.
Well, we're talking through that and more over on the interview area. We have Mitch standing by. He's going to be talking to Davey, the master of Drop Room. What's he got to say?
Thank you very much, guys. Just when Davey thought he got rid of the Australians, he gets another one. Sorry about that one, mate. But we didn't get to talk to you guys yesterday before the game. You all played an off-stage game as well. So I do want to ask you now, we haven't seen you at an event with a full roster since before Austin. Obviously, Austin wasn't even a full roster. So a lot of people are wondering, what have you guys been up to in I guess, that interim?
Yeah, I guess we've just been practicing with our current 5, and we've just been trying to prepare for this event. This is really the only event that we have going on right now, so we've just been spending our time trying to prepare for this one.
Talk to us about some players removing silencers from USPs in their first round. Is there a tactical reason for that? Obviously, statistically, it's not as strong a weapon, or are you trying to get into Renegade's head there?
It's all mind games. It's all mind games. He's confident, It's all mind games.
Speaking of which, you guys are super loud as well. When we hear you win a round, or we're sat just out there and you can hear it a lot as well. Obviously, there are some teams like Immortals who don't do it to try and get in the enemy's heads, but that's just the excitement, the wave that they're riding on. What is it for you guys? Is it again to play the mind games?
I think it's a bit of both, honestly. Like, when we're wearing the soundproof headphones, I don't even know if they can hear us. They might just be able to faintly hear us, or if they're holding down their mics to talk, they might hear it coming through. But it's mostly just because we're just really excited. We don't win that much, so when we win rounds, we got to get really excited about it,
Sure thing. It was the shotgun picks, a similar story, because we're seeing some pretty filthy stuff with the auto shotgun, and even Professor Chaos picking up the Nova on a couple of occasions there as well. Is there an element of getting in the enemy's head with picking those as well?
Well, he only got a Nova because he was dropping an op to Arya, and he wanted him to have armor, so the only gun he could buy was a Nova, so that's what he gave him. And the auto shotgun's just overpowered, so we just try to use it whenever possible.
Well, definitely played a big role in your games there as well, no doubt about it. Let's talk about that round. It was 14-14. You guys went onto the B site. 2v4, you guys won the round out. What the heck happened there?
I still don't know. We're going to have to watch it back and see, because we're sitting there, we're me and Abe are we're talking what went wrong, what are we going to do next round, all this stuff, and then suddenly they're just killing everyone, and we're wait, this doesn't make any sense. This isn't what's supposed to happen right now. So I have no idea.
So you're
just paying attention.
Yeah, so you're literally discussing the next round when you're winning that one.
Yeah, I don't know how it happened. We had one person with a Tech 9 and 20 HP, and another person with 50 HP, and I don't know what happened.
Well, it doesn't matter, I guess, because the result was a positive one for you guys. So thanks, Davey, for joining me. Hopefully we get another chance to chat later on. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to throw to a break. When we return, it's going to be the Dragons of Tyloo going up against Immortals.